what's up? My name's Alea. Welcome back to my channel, and welcome to the second video of Vlogmas. So today we're going to be talking about my winter TBR. So I have quite the list of books that I'd like to get to in the next 3 months. As always, this is kind of a tentative TBR, and I'm sure there's going to be other things I'm going to be reading that are not on this list, but these are the things that I'm kind of thinking about reading for videos and readathons and things like that. So I've kind of broken this list into a few different categories. So the first category is books that are for a secret TBR video that I'm going to be doing. The first two books we're going to be reading are A Song for the Wild-Billed and A Prayer for the Crown-Shy. So these are the first two books in Becky Chambers' new kind of cozy fantasy duology, and the first one follows this tea monk named Dex, who is just learning how to be a tea monk when this robot comes up to them and asks them what humanity needs, and the two of them end up going on a journey to kind of answer that question. And then I've also heard that they're really good if you read them like in tandem, so I don't really know much about Prayer for the Crown-Shy because I don't want to be spoiled for the continuation of this series, but I'm excited to get to these. The first one in the series is one that I picked up last year kind of on a whim, and I started the audiobook and I just wasn't really vibing with it at the time, so I kind of put it on hold for a later date. So I'm hoping that I can get to that in December. And then the next one we're reading for that vlog is The Tea Dragon Society. I'd really like to be able to read the whole trilogy, but I only have the first one at the moment. But this is a cozy fantasy graphic novel that I've heard really good things about. The art style is really cute and cozy. And this is a series about these little dragons called tea dragons that grow tea leaves out of their horns. You can kind of see it right here on the cover. And it's about these people who harvest the tea leaves, and they like hang out with these little baby dragons and make tea, and it's supposed to be really wholesome and cute. And I really like the art style. I think it's really pretty with all of the warm colors and things. So I'm excited to get to this. This is one that everybody has read but me, I swear, so I'm excited to get to it. And then next up we have Lonely Castle in the Mirror. So this is one that I haven't really heard a lot of things about. The only thing I really know is that it's about a girl who is severely bullied and ends up kind of dropping out of school, and she's staying at home in her bedroom and she's pretty depressed and stuff, and then she ends up like getting sucked into a magical world through her bedroom mirror, and she goes to this castle where she meets a girl who wears a wolf mask, and she like meets some other kids there and stuff, and it's supposed to be kind of magical realism, whimsical kind of a vibe. And next up we have Crying in H Mart. So this is a memoir that is extremely popular and lots of people have read this, and I've kind of been avoiding it because of the hype, but I am going to be reading it for the secret TBR video. And it's about this woman who is grieving the loss of her mother, and it's about how every time she goes to H Mart she cries. And it's kind of just about her talking about her Korean American identity and her relationship with her mom and her grandmother, and just talking about like her childhood and grieving and that kind of thing. And I'm excited to get to this. I've heard that this is incredibly sad. I know Allie from Alice in Pages read this and it made her absolutely sob her eyes out. So I'm excited to read this, but I'm also a little bit nervous, and I feel like I gotta be in the right headspace when I pick this one up. And next up we have a graphic novel called On the Sunbeam by Tilly Walden. So this is another one for that secret TBR, and this one is very chunky. It's a lot longer than I thought it was gonna be, but the art style is really pretty and it's very unique looking. And I've never read Tilly Walden before, so I'm interested to see what I think of her stuff. But it looks like this one is dual timeline, and it's about this woman who joins a crew that goes into space, and their job is to like rebuild these broken structures on different planets. And she kind of has like a found family thing going on with that group that she's in space with. And then the second timeline is about two teen girls that are at boarding school, and they end up falling in love and having a little sapphic romance. So those are all the books for the secret TBR. And then the next category is romance books that I really want to get to this winter. So for that I have some holiday romances and also some historical romances. So the first one I want to get to is Secrets of a Summer Night by Lisa Kleypas. So this is one that's been on my TBR for a while. I found this copy at a used bookstore last summer and it looks really, really good. It's the sequel to Again the Magic by Lisa Kleypas, which I read earlier this year and really enjoyed. So this one follows this woman named Annabelle, and she's trying to save her family from disaster, and so she's trying to like get married off to a nobleman, and she ends up falling for this guy named Simon Hunt, but he's kind of a rake and he like doesn't want to get married, and so she's trying to convince him to settle down and marry her and stuff. And it sounds like her friends also are kind of like coming out in London society, and all of the girls are trying to find husbands that are suitable, so they are all kind of in this like marriage scheme together, and it sounds really fun. And then the next one I want to get to is by Eloisa James, and it's called My American Duchess. This is another one I got at a used bookstore, and I'm really excited about this one because I've never read Eloisa James before, and everybody says that her writing is really good. So this is another historical romance about this duke. He's called the Duke of Trent, and he's intending to marry like a well-bred English woman, and then he meets this American heiress named Mary, and he kind of falls for her. But the thing is, Mary has this reputation for getting engaged and then breaking off the engagement before she ever gets married, and so the Duke of Trent is like, okay, I want this woman and I'm gonna get her to marry me. And this woman Mary is already betrothed to somebody else, and then she meets Trent and he is like trying to win her heart, and she's like, bro, I'm not into that, like you need to back off. And it just sounds like it's gonna be really cute. I really like these romances where like one of them's an American and one of them is British, and just kind of seeing that dynamic. So I think I'm really gonna enjoy this one. Next up we have another historical called Pleasures of a Notorious Gentleman by Lorraine Heath. So earlier this year I read the first book in this series, and I think that one's called Pleasures of a Wicked Earl, and I liked that one a lot, and so I'm really excited to continue on with the series. This is book 2, and we're following the second brother out of the 3 brothers, and his name is Stefan, and we're following him as he goes into the military, because in book 1 he kind of had like a scandal, so his family like basically sent him off to be in the army, and so he's in the army and he ends up getting injured really bad on the battlefield, and he has to come home. And when he's home, he's like recovering from his injury, and this woman comes to his doorstep and is like, we hooked up one time and I have your baby. And he's like, oh my god, I don't really remember you, but like I should take you in so that it's not like a big scandal. And so he does, but joke's on him for being out of it, because this woman did not really have a baby with him. It's somebody else's baby, and she's kind of like fooling him into taking her in, and then they have like a romance, I assume, and it sounds like it's going to be really scandalous and fun. And then next up I have a couple holiday romances I really want to get to. So I have Merry Little Meet Cute. So this is one that my coworker Richie read and they really enjoyed this, so I'm excited to get to this one. It's about this plus-size woman who is an adult film star, and she ends up getting cast in this like Hallmark-esque Christmas movie with this guy who's an ex-boy band member, and it sounds like he kind of knows her for her adult films, and she knew him when they were younger and she kind of had a crush on him, and so it's kind of about them like making this Christmas movie and like falling for each other, and it sounds really cute. So next up I have Kiss Her Once for Me. So this is a sapphic fake dating romance about this woman who's fake dating this guy, and then she ends up going home with him for the holidays and meeting his family, and then she falls for his sister. And it sounds really good. I have heard really, really good things about this one, and this is also a book by the author who wrote The Charm Offensive, which I just found that out. I had no idea about that. But this one looks really good. I'm excited to get to this. I think this is going to be a really good Christmas romance. And then next up I have another one that I'm not really sure if I'm going to like or not, but I'm going to give it a shot. It's the new book by Talia Hibbert. So this is an arc that comes out in January, and this is a YA romance. It's her first kind of foray into writing a YA romance, and the back says it's a cheeky laugh out loud story about a quirky content creator and a clean cut athlete testing their abilities to survive the great outdoors and each other. And so I don't know, it sounds like it's going to be a funny, fun and fresh time, but at the same time I don't know if I like the whole like quirky content creator and like the guy who's an athlete, and it feels like the characters might end up being a little bit like stereotypical cookie cutter insufferable, if you know what I'm saying. But I am gonna give this a shot and just see if I like it, because I read Talia Hibbert's adult stuff before and I really liked it, so we'll see what I think about this. And then I also have a couple books that I want to listen to an audiobook or read on ebook. So the first one I want to get to is called Seduced by a Pirate by Eloisa James. So this is a really short novella, and I don't really want to know too much going into this, but I think it's a historical romance about this guy who's a pirate, and he ends up falling for this lady, and they have some kind of fun little romance. I have not read Eloisa James, like I said before, so I really want to try her out this winter and see if her stuff is for me, because I know she's written a lot of historicals and I've been really into those this year, so we're gonna give that one a shot. And then I also want to read another romance novella called Snowed In with the Player. So this is another holiday romance, and it's about this girl who's a college student, and she ends up coming home for the holidays and she's staying at her parents' cabin, and then one thing leads to another and she ends up snowed in this cabin with her brother's best friend. And he's kind of a player, but she's always had a crush on him ever since they were kids, and so I think they have some kind of little spicy romance, and this sounds like a really awesome novella, perfect for the holidays. And I think it's only like 130 pages, so I'm really stoked to get to that. I think I'm going to be reading that in my next romance reading vlog. And then the last romance that I have is Lovelight Farms, and this is one that I've been hearing all the romance girlies screaming about, so I figured what the hell, I'll pick up the audiobook. It's on Scribd, why not? And so this is a romance, I think it's another fake dating romance about this girl whose family owns a Christmas tree farm, and she's trying to like kind of align herself with an influencer and stuff to save the Christmas tree farm because it sounds like it's not doing very well, but she feels like she needs to like be in a relationship in order to like bring on the holiday romance spirit into the business. And so she gets this hometown guy to like fake date her, and it sounds like then they actually like fall for each other. So I'm interested to see if this is my cup of tea or not, because a lot of people have been reading this series this year and like raving about it, so we'll see what I think. But I think that's again another one I want to read for my holiday historical smut by the fire reading vlog that I want to do later this month. So I have a little stack of books that I have started reading this year and have not gotten around to finishing because I'm a crazy woman and I read like 7 books at once. So let's get into that stack. So the first book on this list is Slewfoot by Brom. So I started reading this around Halloween, and I just have not gotten around to finishing it because the audiobook is kind of long. But I really want to finish this by the end of the year because I'm really enjoying this one. It's very spooky. It's about this woman named Abatha who lives in a Puritan village, and then her husband dies, and the Puritans don't like her and they think she's a witch and they're kind of coming for her. And so she makes this deal with a demon called Slewfoot to try and get revenge on these Puritans. And Abatha is a bad bitch, and I love this book so far, so I really want to finish it before the end of the year because I think it could be in my like top 10 books of the year potentially. And then another one that I think could also be a top favorite of the year is The Hacienda. And so I'm part of the way through this. By the time you see this video, I might have already finished it in my previous vlog, but this is one that I really want to get to finishing because it's really good so far. I love the writing style. It's very lyrical, but I also feel like every single sentence gives you a little bit more information about this creepy hacienda. It's atmospheric, it's gothic, it's very cool, and I'm really enjoying it so far. And this author also has a new book that she just announced that's coming out in 2023, so I really want to read The Hacienda and finish that before I read her new book later on in 2023. Next up, we have one that I haven't started yet, but I am planning to start it either today or tomorrow, and that's White Horse. So this is a book that just came out recently, and I know it was a book of the month selection, but I haven't heard any reviews for it at all. I was digging around on YouTube trying to find some, and it doesn't seem like anybody's actually reviewed this book yet. But this is a indigenous ghost story that sounds really good. It's about this woman whose cousin finds an old family bracelet that once belonged to the main character's mom, and this bracelet somehow conjures her mother's ghost and also some kind of mysterious monstrous entity. So our main character has to kind of uncover some things that happened in her past revolving around her family, and it also sounds like maybe there's some like generational trauma going on and maybe some ghosty paranormal things going on, and it sounds really good. And I love this cover too. Sorry for the library glare, but it's so aesthetic and cool looking, and I'm really excited to get to that one. And then I have 2 other ones that I'm part of the way through. So we have The Dragon's Bride by Katie Roberts. This is a monster romance between this human woman and this dragon man, and so far I'm really enjoying it, but I really want to finish this before the end of the year so that I can continue on with the series. I'm really loving this. I never thought that I would be into a monster romance, but this one is actually really good and really spicy. And then finally we have a short story collection that I want to finish called What We Fed to the Manticore. So this is one I'm almost done with. I'm on page 100. And so I really want to finish this. This is a collection of short stories that are all about environmentalism and conservation and loss. And a lot of these stories are really tender, but also really sad. And they're all told from the perspective of a different animal. And so far my favorite one is the one from the vulture's perspective. That one was really, really cool. They're also kind of about the relationship between humans and nature and animals and that kind of thing. So this is a really good one if you're looking for a short story collection. But yeah, I would like to finish all those books before the end of the year, if at all possible. And then the next category I wanted to tell you about is books that I want to read for Winterween. So I think Winterween's probably going to be at the beginning of January. They haven't done the announcement videos for it yet, but that's kind of when it was last year. So I have some horror books on my TBR that I think I'm going to save for like a folk horror, gothic horror reading vlog for Winterween. So the first one I wanted to tell you about is called Loot. And this is a folk horror that looks really, really good. And it's about these people who live on this island. And for some reason, once every 7 years, 7 people die on this island. And it seems to be kind of a ritualistic sort of thing where these 7 people die. And then for the next 7 years, the island is protected from like war and plague and famine and all that kind of stuff. But it's basically following this woman who ends up marrying into a family that lives on this island, and she doesn't really believe the rumors of these 7 killings every 7 years thing until one night the killings start and she's like, oh my god, I didn't realize that the rumors were true. And it sounds like she kind of has this crazy nightmarish night. But there's also supposed to be these themes of like love and companionship and community in this book, so I'm not really sure how dark it's gonna get, but I'm very intrigued by this one. This is one that came out from Tor at the beginning of October, and I haven't really heard a lot of things about it, but I'm obsessed with this cover, so I'm really excited to get to this one. And then another one I want to read for Winterween is called The Hollow Kind, and this is one that I think is a gothic horror. It's also a new release. It's about this woman who inherits this old house out in the woods from her grandfather who passes away. And I think she's in some kind of like bad marriage to this guy, and so she ends up taking her son and she's like, hey, we're leaving, we're gonna go move to this house I just inherited, it's gonna be great, we're gonna start a new life there. And then they get there and the house is really creepy and they're kind of like, oh shit, like this might be worse than the life we left behind. And it's kind of about the mom and the son figuring out this sketchy past that the family has and uncovering some dark secrets and things, and it looks really cool and eerie, and I'm excited to get to that. And then the last one I want to get to for that is a new one from Catriona Ward, who's the author who wrote The Last House on Needless Street and Sundial. And I've never read her before, but I've heard kind of some good things and mixed things about her writing. But she has a new book coming out called Little Eve, and I think this is one that's about a haunted house, and it's also supposed to have like culty vibes, and I don't really want to know too much going into this. But again, I think it's about a woman who goes to a haunted house and things get weird and creepy, and I'm not sure like if she's part of a cult or how the cult is involved, but this one looks really good and spooky as well. And also all 3 of those are on Scribd too. If you have Scribd and you like want to listen to those audiobooks, they have a lot of new horror audiobooks on there right now that look really, really cool. And then the last category for this vlog is some cozy fantasy. I've been hearing a lot of good things about a lot of new cozy fantasy books lately. So the first book for the cozy fantasies is, of course, Legends and Lattes. So this is one I've had for a while and I have not picked it up yet, but I really want to because everybody says it's really good. And it sounds like we follow this orc named Viv, and she has had a life of like barbarian badassery, and she's decided to retire from that and open up her own coffee house in this little town where they don't even know what coffee is. And so she's kind of trying to open her own cafe, and I think she ends up having a like sapphic romance with another woman who lives in the town, and it sounds really cool. And I also really like the little illustrations that are in this book. There's all kinds of like cute little food related drawings on the chapter headings and stuff, and it looks really cute. I've heard this is super cozy and fun, low stakes fantasy, that kind of vibe, and I think it would just be perfect for reading in December. And then next up, I want to read this YA book that I just got a damaged copy of at work, and I haven't heard any reviews for it. It's called Sophie and the Bone Song, and it looks really autumnal and fun. So it's about this girl named Sophie who's the daughter of the king's personal musician, and it sounds like her dad is really powerful, and this girl Sophie has been kind of like raised to replace her father if anything happens to him. And then I think something happens with her father, and she ends up kind of going on this adventure and learning about forbidden magic and music and things about her family's past. And it sounds like she's trying to kind of like unlock this music power that her father had, and it sounds really cool, and I'm really interested in this. This cover is absolutely stunning, can I just say. So I'm interested to see what this is all about. If you've read this, let me know what you thought, because I don't think I've heard anybody review this on BookTube recently. And then the next two I have are kind of like cozy fantasy graphic novels. So I have Mooncakes. So this is the one that's about these two magical beings, and I think we follow a girl who's a witch and another girl who's a werewolf. And the back says, one fateful night, teen witch Nova follows reports of a white wolf in the woods and discovers her childhood crush, who's a werewolf, battling a horse demon. And so I think the two of them end up kind of like having a little romance, and they're trying to investigate some kind of dark supernatural forces that are trying to interfere with the werewolves and their magic. And it has a really pretty art style as well. It's very like cozy and autumnal, and I think it would be really great to read during the holiday season. And I don't think there's a bakery in this one, but there is definitely some like witchy, baking, cozy, bookish vibes going on too. So this one looks really fun. And then the last one I want to read is called Crumbs. So this is another kind of witchy graphic novel. I've been very into those lately. And this one is also sapphic. And it's about these two people who go to this magical bakery, and they end up having a little romance. And I think one of them is a barista at the bakery and one of them is a musician, and they kind of just have like a soft, cozy little romance going on. And apparently this was originally a webtoon as well, and I've really been into reading stuff that used to be webtoons lately, to be honest with you. And I really like the art style and the colors in this one. Very cozy, very like magic bakery, gay, witchy vibes, if you know what I'm saying. Let me see if I can find another really pretty one. Ooh, this one's cute too. But anyways, so those are all the books that I would like to read this winter. Let me know in the comments what books you are hoping to read this holiday season. And of course, if you have not subscribed to the channel, I would really appreciate if you would consider doing so if you want to see some more bookish content from me, because I will be creating a lot more Vlogmas videos this month and some other fun reading vlogs and things in the new year. So as always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in another video very soon. Bye!